Hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. Bet Parks, it is the home of the soon-to-be tied for the best record in the NFC, unless a miracle happens out in Detroit. Just a dominant performance. A Steelers team that came in at 10-3, and a week of tumult and issues and whatever. And the Eagles whooped their asses. They had the ball for 5 minutes in the entire second half. Like, both sides of the ball, the Eagles were amazing. The whole stuff, Jalen threw the ball the best he has all year. That was freaking awesome. Super Bowl back on. Legit win. Go Birds, baby. How you doing, pal? What a win.
We use expressions often on this show, and normally I butcher them, but I think this expression couldn't fit it better, and I think I'm going to nail it. It's exactly what the doctor ordered. Like, you want to talk about...
you nailed it. You nailed it.
You want to talk about exactly what this team needed. You could not have scripted, in many ways, a better outcome of this game than what that was. I mean, that was every single checkbox you want to see from a Super Bowl team. And we'll talk about why they checked all those boxes. But you have to start with what the doctor ordered, like what they needed. And that first half was unbelievable. I mean, you could not, like...
10 first quarter points, Elliot. I mean, that alone is like that. What, they have 17 all year? They had more than half of what they had gotten all year.
Yeah, and not only just that, it's how they got them too, right? Yep. If they would have came out and ran to those points, obviously all points count the same. I get all that. We'd be on here saying that, right? But like the fact that all week it was about the passing game and they went out and did that, like, I mean, talk about a sigh of relief in that locker room. I can't wait to get down there to see what it feels like in there, because I'm guessing it's going to be much different than last week. But for Jalen to come out and play the way he did, I'll drop another expression we use on this pod quite a bit, and I feel like I made it up, but I'll just, like, big time players, big time plays, and big time moments. And that's exactly what this was. Like, I know it's not a playoff game. We're not talking about a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter, although that fourth quarter drive was certainly, I think, should qualify as game-winning. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, according to Tucker, the longest game-winning drive in their history, or game-closing drive in their history.
Wow.
According to Tucker, at least. And also the 10-game winning streak, the longest in their history as well.
Yeah, which, we'll have to have a talk with Drew from Westchester at one point about how we're feeling about the streak. But regardless, like, to come out and for Jalen to perform the way he did, and it's AJ too. Like, it is AJ too.
Both of them, I agree.
But let's be honest, like, the pressure wasn't on AJ in the same way this week. The pressure was on Jalen and AJ together, and like the whole, are they friends? Are they not good friends?
But everyone knows AJ's great. Like, no one was questioning that. Yeah.
Everyone knows AJ is great. And me and you said this on Go Birds Radio. Like, we still had confidence in the passing game. And did I think they'd come out and do that? Like, no, I didn't think they would come out and do
Just
that.
Sling it all over the field. Like, let's go.
But it wasn't even like, so often I watch other games around the league and I'll text, like, you and Jack in the chat or whatever, or like other friends, and just be like, man, you never really see the Eagles do that. Like 5-6 completions to go down the field, like 11, 12 yards at the time. And that's exactly what they did. I even thought just like the ball came out of his hand crisper than it normally did. Like, I thought all of his passes were on point. I thought he put it where only his receivers could get it. I mean, that pass to AJ down the left sideline where AJ, he didn't really moss the guy, but he goes up and gets it, like, adjusts well to the ball. I thought Jalen put that where only AJ could get it. The touchdown pass to AJ.
And the touchdown to Devontae, that was like the one that got intercepted in the Cowboys game. Like, just a laser.
Yep. Perfect. I thought perfect placement on that too. And I just think too, like, they needed that, like there's a much different world where there were a few turning points in this game for sure. Like the fumble by Najee Harris, the Steelers are going in, who knows if they tie it at 20-20, instead it ends up being 27-13, and they never really threaten again. But there was a world, like the Steelers are a good team, where they come out, Mike Tomlin has something cooked up for Jalen, the passing offense doesn't get going, they lose this game, and we're sitting here being like, well, here we go into Washington with some real pressure. I mean, you could not have alleviated the pressure any better than this team did today. I put it in my post-game report card, but like, the Super Bowl's back on. Like, it was maybe a 1 week detour.
I said it in the open, right? I said it in the open.
It's back on. Like, it was a 1 week detour, and look, it was an ugly week, and ultimately, like, this doesn't mask everything, right? Like, what happened over the last week wasn't all just made up. Like, they fought through something, right? And we talked about on the pod that when BG did what he did, when he talked about the relationship issues between Jalen and AJ, that it was a risk and that it could absolutely bring them together or it could absolutely not. And we won't know for sure for a while if it brings them together. But that team out there certainly looked very, very well brought together. And I also think that, so much of this sometimes is just about what the public sees and the message you put onto the public. And that's why when BG said what he said, it was like so concerning. But that's why when AJ catches his touchdown and he runs right to Jalen and they do the celebration, like
Totally.
that's just good job by both them, right? Both of them knew that was needed. Both of them knew what that would show and what that would like, just nationally, that clip, like what that would be. Prior to the game, Jalen praying with Devontae and AJ, like they checked all the boxes today
And
of
the
what this
play
team needed.
itself, like the chemistry on the field between the three of those guys.
Yes,
Both
exactly.
Devontae and AJ had massive games today.
Right. Like, so, as we sit here, the 10th in a row, obviously the Lions lose today. Like the path to the number 1 seed feels maybe, the first hope in a while. Man, if the Lions would have only lost that Packers game, they'd be sitting
I
really
know.
pretty right now. But regardless, like I do think this is one of those games where, and I'll talk about this in the daily pod tomorrow, and we'll talk about it during the week. Like, yes, we'll talk about the number 1 seed scenarios. We'll talk about comparing the other teams. But the Eagles needed like a get right game. They needed like a just get everything back on track, get back to the team they've looked like over these prior 8 games prior to that Panthers game, and just play better. And that's exactly what they did. Like they just needed that so bad. And to get, I mean, last year during the collapse, they needed a game like this and they could never get it, right? Like they beat the Giants in that one game, but it wasn't really a convincing win. Like there were some positive takeaways from different games, but they were never able to just stop the bleeding. And they didn't lose 3 in a row. It's not that type of thing. But there was like drama this week. There was, to use the phrase, like there was bleeding this week, and they stopped it. And they were unable to do that last year. And to do it today, to do it in the way they did, like it could not have been a more encouraging performance.
Yeah, on every level. I mean, we talked about it on the station. You even said, would you rather they, pass the ball great and lose a close one or win? And I was like, win. We
Yeah.
got both.
You got both
And
in a big
to
way.
your point, like, I think that this team, I think this is when you take everything into account what happened, I think it's the best win of the season. It's funny. The two best
Definitely.
wins of the season both came against the tough nosed, physical AFC North teams, which
Honestly,
is,
the
I
the
think,
3 best wins of the season. The Bengals game, probably the third one.
yeah. Whether it's that Green Bay, it's hard to judge all that,
Right.
but that Washington game Thursday night. But ultimately, like the two best are very clearly the Baltimore game and the Steelers game. They're the two best teams that they beat, other than maybe Green Bay. In the first game, they beat them. The Eagles beat them at what they do. They were the more physical, tough team. I mean, the defense, shout them out for 2 turnovers with the Eagles early. The Jalen one, obviously it can't happen, but the broken finger, who knows how it all played in.
Right.
But the Cooper DeJean one, obviously a total disaster, but 3 points out of that. And the Eagles score off the Najee one. It was just this Eagles team. And again, to your point, obviously to be able to come out with all the consternation and sling the ball around the field the way they did and not have to use Saquon the way they did. I mean, Saquon and who knows what for, apparently not an injury. I don't know, but Saquon, missed a large chunk of the game there. But even when he wasn't, Kenny Gainwell more efficient and effective today than Saquon on his touches.
Yeah.
And ultimately, this is a game where, I feel like every game, and the defense was awesome again, so shout out to defense. But I feel like every game we come out of it being like, oh, Saquon's the star, or the defense was the star. Like we needed a Jalen was the star game, and for it to happen the week where he's in the eye of the storm, like hell yeah, man, like hell yeah, like that's I'm so fired up about this team and their chances.
I mean, he was like damn near
awesome.
flawless. He was almost flawless. Awesome. Like, you bring up the fumble, and you're right. Like, that can't happen. Like, what's funny about that play too is I actually thought he did a really good job protecting the ball. I thought Watt just made a great play on it. You could argue like he should have
Yeah,
gone
the
down
the
there.
sack
He
later
did.
from Watt, him holding on to it
Yeah,
was
him holding on to it there,
unbelievable.
him holding on to it there was a huge moment. But it wasn't just that, like, obviously he played great, but I thought this one really passed the eye test. Like, oftentimes with Jalen, we'll come on here afterwards and say he played really well, but then you'll watch the tape and, like, maybe, or like people watch it and it's like he won, but was he the main reason? Like, I thought he looked like a franchise
He was
quarterback
the
out there
star
in
of the
the net.
game.
He looked like a franchise quarterback. Like, he had complete control of that game, 100% complete control of that game. I thought his decision making was great. I think it was a 2nd and 20 play where the pocket kind of collapsed on him. He stepped up in the pocket, kept his
Devontae.
eyes down the field. Yep, found Devontae. I thought that was a really nice play. You mentioned the touchdowns. He was awesome there. And I think too, like, we'll get in more to, like, I guess the specifics of it once I get a chance to rewatch it. But like, I just thought to see him respond like that was so encouraging. I mean, the entire NFL spent all week talking about him. Wasn't good enough against the Panthers. AJ doesn't think he's good enough. Like, the passing game wasn't good enough. And to come out and turn in that type of performance, like, it just says a lot about who Jalen is. And we had a caller, I apologize, but I forget his name, call in this past Saturday and said, like, Jalen's the most dominant player in the league. And, like,
Chris and
probably
Overbrook.
There you go, Chris and Overbook. But like, and probably not, but like, certainly look pretty dominant tonight. Like, if they get that type of quarterback play from Jalen the rest of the way, they're going to be extremely, extremely hard to beat. Like, if they could lose, anything could happen. They're going to play great teams on their way to the Super Bowl. But if they get that type of play from Jalen, because again, to your point, like, they had two very uncharacteristic turnovers, and they still dominated that game early on. Like, just absolutely dominated. Now, my thoughts on the defense quickly, like, or not quickly, but to get to the defense. I said that I thought they had to win this game for him, and they didn't win it for him, but they played well enough that
They were great.
the offense could have had a C game and probably still won. Like, that's how good the defense was. I mean, to your point, absolutely dominated early on. There's the 2 turnovers. They only allow 3 points from that. They give up 11 total yards in the first 5 possessions. Like, the offense came out hot, which helps, but the defense would have like allowed them some space had they not come out hot. Like, the defense came out in complete control of that, because we talked during the week, like, the pressure if they fall behind or if the offense comes out slow would have been immense. Like, the feeling here was tense at times, like, I think especially prior to the game. And the fact that the defense came out and just absolutely dominated, like, dude, Nolan Smith was unbelievable tonight.
Totally. Josh Sweat, Carter, like,
Yep.
N'Kobe Dean was flying around out there. I mean, yeah, dude, I'm with you. Like, they answered the bell.
What's crazy?
Bunch of cliches today, but they answered the bell.
Well, what's crazy is, like, they're such a good tackling team. Like, there's so many times where a player is in space against someone else and he brings them down. Like, there was a play today where Zach Bond, like, I think it might have been either Pat Fryermuth or Najee Harris, but like, he gets him. It looks like the guy's going to break the tackle, and Zach Bond is just holding on to his leg for dear life, and the guy goes down. Like, Cooper DeJean.
I think it was Fryermuth.
I think it was, yeah. Like, Cooper DeJean had a really nice play in the flat where he forced a guy out of bounds. Like, they just don't give up anything extra. You have to work so hard. I think about, like, I remember the Titans clip where he's like, they're not going to get another yard tonight, like, to make them work for everything. Like, that's what it feels like when I watch this Eagles team play. Like, they're going to give up plays. And look, the final.
They're so well coached, man.
Yep.
Give it to Vic. They're so well coached.
Absolutely give it to Vic. I also think I think Nick deserves credit there too, with just how, like, the fundamentals there, like,
and Howie, the talent is
and
legit
Howie, absolutely,
too.
yeah. It's a everyone gets credit for it, and the players are unbelievable. But like, they don't give up, man. Like, they had the maybe last 8 minutes of the half where they weren't great in the first half, but then they come out and, like, the Steelers never really. They had the one drive where Najee Harris drops it and Darius Slay recovers it, which, by the way, like, they finally get some fumble luck. It feels like fumble luck.
Unbelievable. I couldn't believe. I said to Emily, I'm like, I can't believe they actually got it.
Right, bounce right to him. Hey, it's like the Super Bowl bounce, right? Who knows? But really quickly, to circle back on Nolan Smith, because I want to make sure he gets his credit. I thought he played his best game in an Eagles uniform. He was all over the field. He was awesome against the run. He consistently got pressure on Russell Wilson. I mean, so much has changed in this season from the first month. But I remember me and you talking, like, at Parks Casino, maybe after the bye week or whenever it was, like, basically saying, like, who knows if Nolan Smith is even an NFL player? He has ascended from, like, maybe not an NFL player to an NFL player to an average player to a good player to, like, an impact player. Like, that's what he is right now. We'll see if he can keep it up come playoff time. But his ability to use his athleticism, get around the end, the Steelers Steelers tackles are not that good, but he still dominated them. Josh Sweat had a winnable matchup, but he dominated that matchup. Like, I just thought it was like defensive line played outstanding.
I'm a billion% with you. I thought they were fantastic. I agree with your search. I think it was absolutely Nolan Smith's best game as an Eagle. Thought Jalen Carter yet again just dominant for us down there. They were awesome. They did what they were supposed to. But again, this is a game where we can say, especially considering the defense that came in here, the best defense Eagles have faced this season. I think maybe inarguably. And they won the game with offense today. And
Yeah.
Jalen and throwing the ball and ball control. Again, the Steelers had the ball 5 minutes in the second half. That's unbelievable. They were. And again, Nick, too, you're right. Credit to Nick. This team is so well coached, top to bottom. They're ready to play. Also, I think Nick deserves a lot of credit. We give Jalen a lot of credit, and I think he deserves the most credit for this specific thing. But I think Nick deserves credit for keeping the team together this week, just like
sure.
Jalen for being in the eye of the storm and performing. I think Nick for kind of shepherding them through it and, getting moving forward after Wednesday and all the stuff he did. And AJ too, to not make it awkward, to come in and be able to work together and all that stuff. The celebration, like you said, man, this is the first time all year when you've done or not all year, but the last month you've been doing hey, the Eagles should be considered the co-favorite with the Lions. And I'm like, listen, I think they could beat the Lions, but the Lions have earned the favorite status. Give it to them. Today, even outside of the Lions losing, just period. But I mean, obviously with that, today's the first day where I feel like the Eagles should be the favorite to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC. And if they don't get home field, I get it if they're not the favorite because of that. But I think they're the best football team. I think they are top to bottom, talent, roster, ability, both sides of the ball, coaching, everything. I think they are the best team in the NFC.
Well, so I thought there was a really telling moment, maybe to kind of wrap this up, but summarize this up for me. So it's the Steelers are driving, they're near the goal line. Darius Slay gets into it with somebody. They start to fight, right? And so they're in the back of the end zone. They're starting to fight. Quinyon Mitchell comes in like a freaking missile out of nowhere, runs into the pile. He's pushing the guy that's messing with Darius Slay. He's swinging. Honestly, I didn't see the replay, but I don't know how nobody got ejected from that. That was crazy.
But, I couldn't believe the Steelers were the only one who got flags from
They got
too.
both, exactly. But so think about that play, right? And then think about last year when the Niners were here and they walked through the Eagles huddle and no one did anything about it, right? I
love that, E. Love it.
I thought the attention.
Let's go. You got me fired up, dude.
Thank you. I thought the attention to that play at the time was a little overstated, but let's be real here. We talked all week talking about if this team could collapse again. Could this be a repeat of last year? Is this the moment where it falls apart? And that play last year against the Niners is where it fell apart, where the Niners punked the Eagles. This play today, when Quinyon had Slay's back, everyone's jumping in, everyone's swinging. That showed the difference between that team and last year's team. And I also think it showed the team that Nick brought from Monday night when BG said what he said into this game. They are still very, very, very much together. So when you talk about the favorite, co-favorite, I agree with you. I think they're better than the Lions. The Lions got banged up again today. The Lions have not been playing great. They just got blown out, or at least it looks like it wasn't that competitive.
It's funny because they're only gonna lose by 6 because they just scored a late touchdown.
Right, but they were down.
They were down big. The Buffalo dominated the football game. I will say the one bad thing with both the games at the same time. Josh Allen today, 362 through the air, 2 passing touchdowns, and also 69 and 2 rushing touchdowns. I think we could say Josh Allen won the MVP today, sadly.
Well,
but,
and also
let's win the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and also Saquon didn't have a great game. I don't know what he ended up with.
That's my point. I'm saying with the two compared to contrast.
Right. And I do think today the rushing record probably took a bit of a hit on whether it'll happen or not. But regardless, outstanding performance. They desperately need it. It's back on. This was to wrap it up exactly what the doctor had ordered. It's a shot in the arm they needed, and they got it. And I feel like there is legitimate reason to be super hopeful again about this team, which feels good after what had been a really fun year so far. To have a week that wasn't fun, it happens. It'll happen during a season, but it's good to have it be fun again.
Yeah, and it's official now. The Bills win by 6. The Eagles, though they don't hold the tiebreaker, are tied for the best record in the National
There you go.
Football Conference in the NFC. Obviously, Vikings tomorrow night, still depending. And to your point, man, like I think they should be the favorite. This team is for real, for real. They just showed us. They showed us earlier in the season and really all year that they. How they respond to adversity, how tough they are, how physically tough, how mentally tough, and I mean, like
There we go.
they did it today in spades. Like with the whole saying, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. It's always used for like someone who's like doesn't work hard or this or that. Let's do it the other way. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. This is a Super Bowl caliber winning team. So,
I agree.
All right, awesome
100%.
stuff. All right, get down to the locker room. We'll be back later in the week. Also, we hit our parlay again. No big deal. Just
No big deal to
wins
us. It's
everywhere.
what we do.
Kings.
Exactly.
All right, we'll be back later in the week. Go Birds, baby. 12-2. Until then, he's Liam James.